So Merab defeated Umar, the guy who was supposed to beat him, according to many including myself, so naturally I and many others have been wondering who really beats this guy, cause he just keeps Merabing everyone they put in front of him. Although Jan, Cejudo, O'Malley, Umar, his resume is just insane. He's definitely the bantamweight GOAT in my opinion. So that's why in this video, I'm gonna break down some future potential matchups for Merab and figure out if he can Merab them or not. Now let's start off with a fighter who a lot of people suggested should be next in line for Merab, and that is Pantoja. And right off the bat, they're both pretty similar when it comes to their style of fighting. I mean, both are high-paced grapplers, but the difference is that Pantoja's a lot more dangerous on the ground. He's very good at getting the back and finding submissions, and Merab is just a higher-paced fighter. His cardio is just more insane. He just has that goblin cardio. And when it comes to the striking, they're both pretty mid, so no one really has a clear advantage in that department. But off the fact that Pantoja has a very dangerous submission game, I think he matches up pretty well. I think it would be very interesting to see Merab's approach in that fight, because I think Merab would be a lot more careful and not spam takedowns like he usually does, at least not in the early rounds. But I honestly see him having a bit of a similar approach to the Umar fight. He plays the stand-up game early, and as Pantoja starts to gas and the fight progresses, he starts spamming takedowns. And this is going to be a very hard fight for Pantoja. He definitely can't outpace Merab, and he's going to have a very hard time taking Merab down. And he can't really knock out Merab on the feet either. I just think Merab is just going to plod forwards, have no respect for Pantoja's striking, because the guy had zero respect for Umar's striking, who's a way better striker than Pantoja, so why is he going to have any respect for Pantoja's striking? The only chance I think Pantoja really has in this fight is to submit Merab early. The question is, can he do that? And I don't think it's impossible. I think he's gonna bring the lighter man skill, as Lucas Tracy likes to say. And Merab's also never really fought a grappler like Pantoja. He's by far the most dangerous when it comes to getting submissions out of all of his opponents. That said, I don't think Pantoja is gonna be able to take him down, because besides Merab being a good offensive wrestler, he also has solid takedown defense. He defended 6 takedowns from Cejudo and defended 13 from Umar. So it's safe to say Pantoja is gonna have trouble taking him down. And on the ground, I do think he is better than Merab, but I think by the time this fight gets to the ground, Pantoja is going to be too gassed to pull off anything significant. Plus, he's going to have a size disadvantage. So ultimately, I trust in Merab not to go for the takedowns early and instead put on a high pace on the feet, then start going for takedown attempts when Pantoja starts to gas a little and the fight progresses. Although I'm betting big on Merab's fight IQ here. He's definitely not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I think that it's most likely that he will get it done against Pantoja. Now moving on to the next fighter, and that is Petr Yan. And I know guys, I know, he got steamrolled in their first fight, but he's been making his way back up. He's on a 2-fight winning streak, Song Yadong and Figgy back to back. So it's definitely not too crazy to say that Yan could get his rematch in the near future. But that said, as much as I would want Yan to win, this is gonna be a really hard fight for him stylistically, as it was in the first fight. I mean, right off the bat, Yan is a fighter who grows into the fight, and against a takedown goblin with infinite cardio, that isn't necessarily a good thing, man. And in my opinion, to be able to have a good chance against Merab, you must present immediate danger early in the fight, and Yan does have really solid power, but where he shines the most are in the later rounds, okay? That said, he does have really good cardio, really good grappling, probably one of the most underrated grapplers at bantamweight, as well as his takedown defense is just voila. It's perfect, bro. But the takedown defense doesn't really matter too much in this fight, because Merab wants to take you down, but he doesn't need to take you down. He only needs to force you into grappling exchanges until you gas out. I mean, that's what he really did against Yan in the first fight. And it's also very easy to do that against someone like Yan, because he uses a high guard and stands his base as his main defense, and he wants to be in boxing range where he can use his boxing, and that works really well against people who's willing to strike with him, but it works really bad against Merab because Merab wants no business with Jan on the feet. So it hurts me to say this, but this fight would likely go similar to the first one, unless Jan makes a big readjustment in his style, which is pretty unlikely, or if Merab approaches the fight differently, which is also pretty unlikely. But that said, he has great power and good cardio and solid takedown defense, so he still has somewhat of a chance, although my money would definitely be on Merab. Now moving on to Deiveson Figueiredo, and I know this guy is coming off a loss, but you cannot tell me that this guy isn't one of the biggest threats to Merab right now. First of all, he has wicked power, probably the most powerful puncher at bantamweight. I mean, he dropped Vera, who O'Malley couldn't even wobble with that nasty knee he landed. And he dropped Jan too in their last fight. So it's safe to say that Merab is in a lot of trouble if Figgy lands. And on top of that, he has very solid ground game with nasty submissions too, which might make Merab a bit hesitant to spam takedowns. And I also think he would have a difficult time holding down Figgy, cause let's be real guys, Merab doesn't hold down anyone unless your name is Sean No Grappling O'Malley. But something that works in Merab's favor is that Figgy does slow down. I definitely thought he slowed down a bit in the Jan fight at least, so this fight really comes down to if Figgy can knock him out early in the fight, and he does have a pretty good chance in my opinion, especially if you look back at the Umar fight where Merab was just plodding forwards into boxing exchanges and brawling with Umar. And if this happens early, I think he's gonna get brutally slept by Figueiredo. However, I do think it's pretty unlikely that he would approach the fight in that way. I mean, compared to Umar and O'Malley fight, where Umar is known to be a guy who doesn't have super powerful hands, plus Merab was really pissed in that fight, while in the O'Malley fight, Merab did his best staying out of range, because he didn't want to get shinned. So all he did in that fight was basically just wait for O'Malley to overthrow, and when he overthrew, he would time a takedown. And I think it's very likely that he will be much more careful than he was in his last fight. So as long as he doesn't brawl with Figgy, he should be pretty safe on the feet. Now when it comes to the grappling, there's definitely a chance that Figgy can submit him, but the chances are still pretty low in my opinion. I mean, he wasn't able to submit Jan off his back, and I mean, Merab regularly trains with Aljo too, who's a wicked grappler on the ground, so I would probably go with him in this fight too. I can see him just forcing Figgy into grappling exchanges early, then just throwing him around and stuff in the later rounds, just, you know, the regular Merab stuff. He's just gonna Merab him, I feel like. But don't be surprised if Figgy drops him in the fight or puts him away, especially if Merab is just plotting forwards trying to brawl with him. Now, I'm gonna move on to O'Malley, and I know what Merab fans are gonna say. Ooh, he destroyed him, O'Malley got completely dominated the whole fight. But that fight was actually a lot closer than a lot of people think. I'm not saying he won, okay? But there were a lot of close rounds in that fight, and Merab had a very different approach from his usual Merabing. He didn't put on an insane pace like he usually does, and he was a lot more careful on the feet. I mean, he stayed completely outside of O'Malley's range and just waited for him to overthrow so he could time it with a takedown. And the reason for that approach is because O'Malley has a lot of power and he's very good at finding that shin. I mean, he's fast, unorthodox, and creative with his striking. And he also face planted his best friend, Aljo, so naturally, Merab had a lot of respect for O'Malley's striking. And that actually favored O'Malley in a way because Merab just wasn't recklessly shooting takedowns, which basically resulted in a slower paced fight. Now the problem for O'Malley in that fight was his lack of grappling. I mean, the guy had a very hard time defending takedowns, and when it got to the ground, he got held there for a while, which allowed Merab to knee away at his thighs. Now can O'Malley fix that hole in his game? Maybe, but we need to have him have a fight in between so he can show off if he has improved in that department or not. And I think his opponent should be Piotr Jan, by the way, but I still think it's pretty unlikely that he can improve by such a significant amount. Now that said, it's still possible that he can time Merab with a knee when he's shooting in. I mean, if anyone would do that to Merab, it's O'Malley, but I still think the chances are still pretty low though, so logically I just would have to go with Merab in the rematch too. I think he essentially has the same approach as he had in the first fight, you know, stay out of the range and wait for him to overthrow, and O'Malley probably hasn't improved enough in the grappling department either, so he probably gets held down and knee to the thigh, you know, straight up Merab.
Dude, can you imagine getting Merab twice?
But if he has improved, he does have a legitimate chance of beating him. But let's move on to Ilia Topuria, and realistically, I know guys, this fight would never happen. They're buddies, but I still thought it would be fun to play around with the idea since they're only one weight class apart. And I'm gonna be honest, Topuria has the keys to beating Merab. And for reference, I'm discussing if the fight took place at featherweight, of course, because there's no way Topuria is making it bantamweight. And his grappling is just good enough to stop majority of the takedowns. I mean, he's also very good on the ground too. So I don't think Merab would be able to hold him down like he did to O'Malley. And he also has a gigantic advantage on the feet. I mean, he's the best boxer in the UFC right now. And on top of that, he just has stupid knockout power. I think he's definitely the hardest hitter in the lower weight classes. And I don't think Merab would be able to put on an insane pace. Because I think he would be scared of entering Topuria's range, kinda like in the O'Malley fight. Matter of fact, I can actually see Topuria walking down Merab because he has the confidence in his own grappling. He knows he can't get held down by Merab, unlike O'Malley, who was gigantically flawed in that department, and because of that, I would probably pick Topuria here. I just see Merab being extremely passive, bouncing around on the outside, trying his best to avoid striking exchanges, and shooting a takedown once in a while, but failing most of the time. And I never see him being able to control Topuria on the ground either, because he doesn't control anyone on the ground. And I just see Topuria pressuring Merab trying to circle away, but Topuria cuts him off and puts him away with a vicious combination early into the fight. And right now you might be like, oh, but Merab was successfully avoiding the striking exchanges in the O'Malley fight. And I understand that, but the difference is Topuria is a way better pressure fighter than O'Malley. Topuria is used to people backing up against him in order to avoid boxing exchanges. And the best example of this is the Volk fight, because Volk is a fighter who uses a lot of movement and Topuria was still able to catch him, so there's no doubt in my mind he can catch Merab. And his disgusting striking while he's circling away or backing up. And if he doesn't put him away early, Topuria will probably start to slow down significantly by the third round. So Merab at least has something going for him, but in my opinion, it's still pretty unlikely that this fight will go past the second round. And it's not like Merab can finish Topuria anyways. So as long as Topuria doesn't completely gas out until the third, he got this one in the bag. But that said, I know people are gonna be like, what about Umar, bro? You're just an Umar hater for not including him. Listen, man. The fight basically just happened. Can Umar improve a lot and maybe win? Yeah, because he's so young, but I don't think it was really a skill issue. He showed early that his grappling was definitely good enough to not get taken down and controlled. I mean, he even took Merab down and controlled him. But he just doesn't have the finishing ability. He doesn't have enough power in his hands, which is why Merab was just crashing into him on the feet and just had no respect for his striking. But he's definitely really good on the ground, but he's just not good enough to submit Merab. And the difference between O'Malley and Umar is O'Malley's just a way more dangerous striker on the feet. Umar doesn't have that danger factor. Oh, but his broken hand! Listen, it's not a reason for him gassing out. But I will say the fight was actually a lot closer than a lot of people think, and there was even an argument for Umar. I'll give him that. But anyways, in conclusion, I don't think anyone beats Merab at bantamweight, but the people with the best chance in my opinion are Davison Figueiredo and Sean O'Malley. And I do think Topuria would beat him, but that fight would realistically never happen, so it doesn't really matter too much. And for the people who are new to this channel, you might think I have some kind of Merab bias, but I do not, man. I think he stinks up majority of his fights. The Yan fight, Aldo fight, O'Malley fight, they all sucked. But the Umar fight was actually pretty fun though. But that said, I think that's it for today guys. Check out a similar video I made about Alex Pereira. But anyways, thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Am I just a Merab tard? Or do you agree with me? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And also don't forget to share this video to a salty Umar fan. And I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye!